Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, Chicago's very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. So as I ask you every Saturday evening at 10 p.m., are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be, to explore that possibility. All right. Another Saturday evening. Good to be back. Welcome everyone to Inspirational Perspective. And wow, what a day. Let me tell you. My day started very early. And it started at the ICANN Collective Conference, where Athenia Montgomery organized that event, and you guys heard her last week. Spectacular event. Let me tell you, she had a lot of very knowledgeable entrepreneurs come out and share their knowledge with the participants there. So I'll tell you this much: for those who went, I know they feel like they got their money's worth. I gave the keynote this morning, and I stuck around for a bit. I actually meant to leave, but as the presenters kept presenting, I'm like, wow, I'm getting something from this. And so I stayed around. Attorney Calvin Boyd talking about trademarks and why it's so important that we protect our businesses, branding experts. I mean, you name it, they were out there. So great job to them. And, thank you for the opportunity once again to be my purpose and share Athenia. So I really do appreciate that. This is the eve of what I would call the hard launch for Purpose, Power, Possibility, the online course. And thank you to those of you who went out, took advantage of the price, the 33% off price I gave you all. Quite a few of you went out and became a member of murdermediocrity.com and have access to that online course on purpose. So thank you for that. And I got a lot of emails and phone calls. From some of you who were trying to get in, but for some reason you couldn't. And so what I've decided to do as a result of that is actually extend the special. So the 33% off. So the course is $97. This makes it $69 for my 1690 listeners. So that is still available if you use the discount code WBON FAM, F-A-M, all caps, no spaces. And then after the show, I'll actually put it on social media. So for those of you, because that was part of the problem, got a lot of emails, people forgot the code. So I'll put it on social media. I'll put it on all my pages. So it'll be on Twitter. It'll be on the Inspirational Perspective Facebook page. It'll be on my personal page. It'll be on the Murder Mediocrity Facebook page. So that way, we don't have that problem again. And that's my gift to you all who listen. And I'll come back to that throughout the show. But again, those of you all who know me know that I'm passionate about people, passionate about helping people. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share the knowledge that I've been sharing in those live workshops that can only be, had at a particular place, and I have to be there to teach it. That's why I decided to use the vehicle of the internet to bring that course to you all. So By all means, those of you who have already gone through it, I'd love to hear your feedback. And anyone who has a question about it, feel free to give us a phone call, 773-591-1690. And tonight, the topic is, how well do you know you? How well do you know you? So this morning, when I was talking to the individuals who came out for the ICANN Collective Conference, one of the things I talked about was the power of identity and why that knowing your identity is a critical component of being successful. And what I did is I shared a lot of my own story. And for those of you who've been listening, a few weeks ago I shared my story in depth. If you haven't listened before, early on, my early 20s, I struggled quite a bit with my own identity, which led to failures, to struggles, to challenges. And once I got clear on that identity, once I got clear on my purpose, one of the things that began to happen is I saw my life shift significantly. And as a result of that, that is why I'm such a proponent for purpose. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic. It's funny, a few weeks ago, when my wife and I were in Mexico, we were talking to another couple. And she was saying, I keep telling Linal, he got to do relationships because people want to hear about relationships. And he keeps talking about purpose. And I told her, I said, look, you can't shift that thing. It's my purpose to talk about purpose because I believe that once a person is very clear on their personal identity, like once they're clear on their identity and they know their purpose, then it actually lays the groundwork for success in relationship. It lays the groundwork for success in work, in finances. It lays the groundwork for success in their overall spirituality, as well as the relationship they have to themselves. It lays that groundwork. I tell young people all the time, your number one priority is to know your purpose. So, how well do you know you? What I want to talk about tonight is identity, but identity in a very different way. But first, I want to talk about what it takes for a person to truly know themselves. I shared this before when I was talking about purpose and identity, that typically, if you meet someone, let's say you meet someone and, you're single and you're romantically attracted to this individual. Almost the first thing that you say, or even if you're talking to someone else, you'll say, yeah, I'm trying to get to know them. I'm looking to get to know them, or I can't wait to get to know them better. Okay. And part of the get to know you process is we're trying to determine whether or not there's a match. Now, the problem that I believe most people have is while they're externally focused on the other individual in terms of understanding whether that person is a match or not, what they've forgotten about is themselves and whether or not they are presenting their true identity to this individual. Often they say, people grow apart. I wonder, is it that they're growing apart or that they're finally coming into their own? They're finally realizing who they are. They're starting to be who they've always been. That's another way to think about it. So you meet this person and typically there's an external focus, right? You're taking in everything about them. You're trying to figure out who they are, what makes them tick. You're asking them questions like, what do you like? What motivates you? These are the kind of questions we're asking. And if you think about it, the person will sit there and they'll say, well, and they have to think about it a little bit. They say, well, what I really like is art, or I really like music. Well, what kind of music? And we start to dig. But the real question is, do you know yourself, or do you know the answers to the questions you're asking for yourself? Like, do you know what you like? Do you know what you're passionate about? And I don't think often we spend a lot of time on that. Partly because, like I said, we're externally focused. I mean, you think about most relationships. One of the problems with most relationships is that somebody has to be right. Right? So that person who's looking to be right, part of the reason they're looking to be right is because they're externally focused. Because I'll tell you, any human being that looks inward immediately begins to see where they could be at fault. If they're self-actualized. If they have self-awareness, right? Those are two big ifs. But if you have any glimmer of self-awareness, no matter what you see, no matter how egregious the offense may be on the other side, if you're self-aware, you will be able to look internally and actually see, oh, wow, here's where I could have shown up better in this situation. Here are the things I could have done that would have eliminated that particular situation or circumstance. Now, why is it that many of us don't think like that? You know, why is it so many of us are walking around lost, or in many ways without a personal identity? Well, the first piece is I don't believe that we really understand what it means to be committed. So I'm going to start there, because in order to talk about identity, one has to ask themselves, am I committed to knowing me? Because in order to get to know someone else deeply, in order to be with someone else deeply, what we typically say is that there is a need for commitment. You know, you have to be committed to that person. As a matter of fact, you know, the traditional sense of commitment is I won't give fully of myself until you fully commit. Why is that? Because I understand that unless you are fully committed, me being a human being, me being flawed, it is very likely that when you see those flaws, if the commitment does not exist, you will leave. Okay? That's the traditional sense. Now, nowadays, you know, you don't need much commitment to people giving all of themselves without much commitment. But part of the reason they're doing that is because they have no idea what they're giving away. They do not know themselves. Because when you're in full relationship with yourself, you don't want to give that to everybody. When you're in full relationship with yourself, you understand your personal power, your spiritual substance, and your essence. And because you understand that, you're not moving around providing that level of power to anyone who wants it. You're just not. In terms of fully giving yourself to someone. So I believe that part of the reason why we're able to do this is because we don't understand commitment. So what is commitment? Well, I'm looking at a definition of the word commitment. And there's three that I'd like to share from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And the first is, a commitment is an agreement or pledge to do something in the future. It is an agreement or a pledge to do something in the future. That's the first definition. Definition number two is something pledged. something that you have pledged, something that you have given your word to or for, okay? And then the third definition is the state or instance of being obligated or emotionally impelled. So tonight, I want to ask you, are you committed to yourself? Are you fully committed to you? Because before we get into a conversation about whether or not you know yourself, let's make sure you're committed, right? Because if you were going to give all of yourself to somebody else, if you were going to expose your dark secrets, if you were going to tell the things that you don't want people to know about you, it's likely that before you do that, you'd want a certain level of commitment. And so I'm asking you to commit to yourself because here's what I believe. I believe many of us do not get into deep conversation with ourselves. We do not explore the depth of who we are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the bright and the dark. We don't look at it because we're not fully committed to ourselves. And full commitment means no matter what I uncover about me, whether I like it or not, I can be with that. And I'm willing to work through that. That is commitment to your own personal identity. Now, there's a bright side on the other side of this. I'm going to get to it. But everything that matters, anything that matters takes hard work. I talked about this morning in the speech I gave. It takes hard work. And most people don't want to work hard. They don't want to work hard. We're always trying to cut corners. So let me ask you, why would you cut corners on yourself when you are your most valuable commodity and you get one life? One life. Why are you cutting corners? Well, I say because we're not committed. And we don't fully understand how powerful we are. And we're not in relationship with ourselves to the extent where we really truly understand our identity. So one of the questions I ask is, who are you? Why are you alive? What is your purpose? Right? And you would think that that's a simple question, but I want to back up before we even get into a question like that and ask you, what was the last commitment you kept 100%? I mean, you made this commitment and you kept that commitment all the way through 100%. Because this is what I know. Any commitment that you've kept 100%, it wasn't about how you felt. Had nothing to do with how you felt. It had everything to do with the commitment itself. So then the next question becomes, for what reason are you fully committed to knowing who you are? Like, why would you want to know who you are? Let me tell you. When you come into full relationship with yourself to the extent where you understand your identity, right? Part of understanding your identity is understanding your purpose. That's a given. That's what we've been talking about here. But when you fully understand who you are, here's what happens. That clarity allows you to be with yourself in a way that you haven't been able to be with yourself. That clarity allows you the ability to give yourself grace in the areas where you haven't given yourself grace. That clarity allows you to tap into your personal power, your spiritual substance, when necessary, to overcome feelings and obstacles and barriers and situations and circumstances that seem to arise when you go after what you're committed to creating. That's what identity does. Here's the other thing that identity does. Identity increases your confidence and self-esteem. See, because when you get in full relationship with you, when you know who you really are, then you realize that there is no comparison. There is no one else like Linal Harris. No one. There was no one who has my unique qualities, who shares the same passions, the same talents, the same strengths. Those are uniquely mine. No one has the same personal power and spiritual substance. No one shares my spirit. I am unique, uniquely made, uniquely created with a very unique purpose. And because I know that, then I don't waste my time trying to compare who I am, how I show up, what I look like, what I do with other people. I am on my journey. And as I'm on this journey, my hope, my prayer is that I maximize my potential, that I push myself to the very brink of all that it is I was supposed to create while I'm on this planet. That is what identity does. Now, how does a person get there? How do you get in full relationship with you? Well, first it takes that commitment I talked about. All right? Because here's the thing. Like I said, it's hard work. And we all know that most of us don't like hard work. But if you want to reap the benefits, the rewards that I just talked about, the self-esteem, the confidence. See, one of the reasons why so many people lack confidence, so many people don't have a healthy level of self-esteem. One of the reasons that is because somewhere along the way, their very identity got robbed. Somebody took it from them. You know, I look at my son. And when I look at my son, you know what I see? I see happiness. I see joy. I see bliss. He has no reason, no reason whatsoever at 4 months on this planet to in any way question his existence. What happens is, as he becomes conscious, we as his parents, my wife and I, our job is to guard that, to mold that, to continue to feed that. And in feeding that, we help him create a healthy identity. But what happens is, as he gets exposed to the world, you know, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to tell him, well, I don't like the way you look. Or I don't like the way you dress. I don't like the way you smell. I mean, all of these different things, right? And likely he'll question that. And what do? We typically go to our parents for reassurance. But somewhere in the process, we stop doing that. And we begin to, as we gain more consciousness and get older, start to rely on ourselves in the story we tell ourselves. Or there is no story. We just believe. No, we believe that we're not good enough. We believe that we can't do something that we're told we can't do. And that becomes a part of our identity. And because we take that on as a part of our identity, you can look at it as a cancer, a tumor, a growth, but it's not supposed to be there. And the only way to do surgery on that thing and cut it off is to start to dig down into the core of exactly who you are. What drives you? What are your passions? See, because here's the thing. All that other stuff you kind of assumed and brought on, it was dropped on you. And when it was dropped on you, now it's weighing you down. And the only way to release that is to go inward. and to begin to learn about yourself. But let me tell you, learning about yourself takes work. So what are your passions? You know, what strong feelings of enthusiasm or excitement come up for you when you're doing something, when you're doing a certain thing? You know, what do you have a strong like or desire for? Like, are you crystal clear? I mean, are you crystal clear? So clear that you try to spend your days, you try to create work that aligns with those passions. Let me tell you, part of the reason I left corporate America is because as I was doing this work, I became so passionate about it that when I had to pull myself away on a Monday morning, I felt a level of discomfort I didn't like. I didn't want to go do work for anybody else. I didn't want to have to listen to someone else's agenda. I didn't want to have to spend my time doing the bidding of someone else, where I would only reap a small fraction of the reward while I was doing something I wasn't really that passionate about. So what are you passionate about? I mean, if you're listening, write this down. You need to know. How about this one? What are your talents? See, everybody that is born, everybody that has the privilege to walk this earth, you have a unique set of talents. What are talents? Talents are natural endowments. Natural endowments. You know, one of the things when I look at my son, right, 4 months old, I sit back and I wonder, what are his talents? You know, my wife and I will play music. He likes music. It makes me wonder, well, does he have a musical talent? Or, you know, he's already got strong legs. I can lift him up and he can jump up and down with me holding him. Makes me wonder, does he have athletic talent? I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a bundle of talents there. And see, the thing is, the tragedy is this, that many of us, we have this bundle of talents and it still has yet to be tapped. Partly because we have no clue who we are. We don't really have an identity. And because we don't know who we are, we don't understand our own identity, we have this bundle of talents just waiting to burst out. And we haven't even tapped into them. And we're trying to figure out why life is so hard. Why I can never really do anything that seems easy for me. Well, maybe because you don't know yourself. Maybe because you've been trying to live a life aligned with what someone else wants, what someone else thinks. Maybe it's time for you to start asking yourself what you want, what you think, what should you be doing? Of course, aligned with your purpose. Now, if you want to know your purpose, again, you can go to murdermediocrity.com, get access to the course, 25 modules. By the way, you got to be committed to go through the course. It's 25 modules. All right. With the work, there's some work. With the work, it'll take you about 4 to 5 hours to get through it. Probably more like 5 to get through the course. And again, the code WVON FAM, all caps, no spaces, to download the course and get the discount. But again, the reason I did that is to help us get in relationship with ourselves, because that's where the power is. You know, you look at the black community, people will say, well, you know, the number one answer, the first thing we need to address is economics. I disagree. I say the first thing we need to address is identity. Because what good is a bunch of people trying to grow economically when they're not even aligning economically in their most powerful way of being? I say purpose. People need to understand their purpose. So what are your talents? And then check this out. What are your strengths? What strengths have you developed over your lifetime? I mean, I'm 41 years old. I was thinking about it today, my speaking strength, right? I've said this before. I'm not a talented speaker. It is not a natural endowment. Speaking is something that I worked very hard at. It's a strength. And it's something that I will continue to do, hone, and develop, because if I stop, a strength can again revert back to what it used to be. Okay? You know, don't work a muscle, right? And watch that muscle go back down. That's what a strength is like. All right? But I was thinking about the strength of speaking. And I remember when, if I had to give a keynote, I had to prepare minimum, maybe 2 to 3 hours for a 30 to 40 minute keynote. Okay? In terms of not just writing out my thoughts, but then practicing, ensuring that I said my words correctly, ensuring that I hit the points properly, ensuring that my tone was in agreement with the emotional, the emotional pivot, or the emotional position I was trying to put people in. I had to practice. And I was actually looking through note cards from other long speeches I had done some time back. And I was like, wow. Because today, I think I looked at my notes twice in a 30-minute keynote. That's me taking a strength and continuing to hone it. Because I couldn't speak in my early 20s. I couldn't effectively communicate. If I was trying to share something of importance with other people, it would get boggled. But I developed that. So what are your strengths? And matter of fact, can you name off 10 talents and 10 strengths that you have? Now, that might seem unreasonable, right? Like, oh man, for real, 10? But it's not. Let me tell you why it's not. Part of the reason I know that this is not unreasonable is because I could ask any man right now to name off 10 football players, 10 basketball players, 10 professional NFL players, 10 professional NBA players. You know, I probably can get 10 NHL players out of some of y'all. Definitely Major League Baseball. And then I could ask you, what are these men talented at? Is he a talented passer? Is he a talented catcher? Is he a talented runner? And you would tell me, oh, he's really good on his feet. This guy here, this running back here, you know, he can break tackles. He's more of a hard-nosed runner. Like, you could begin to tell me about this other individual's strengths and talents. But if I turned the question on you and said, what are you good at? What talents do you have? You know, what strengths do you have? How do you use them? How do you use these to benefit you, to grow you? Would you know? Would you know? Would you be able to stay in conversation with the same fervency, the same passion as you would if you were talking about professional sports? See, let me tell you something. Our society is set up for you to keep the focus off you, to keep everything external. It's about how you feel. Are you hungry? When was the last time something good happened for you? What have you done for me lately, right? It's all about me and what can I get externally. And what they're not telling you is that all you got to do is look inside. Look inside, and the fulfillment you've been looking for will be right there. It's right there in your talents. It's right there in your strengths. And when you start to tap into them, you're going to feel a completely different way about yourself. Level of confidence, level of esteem you probably never felt before. But instead, we know all the names of the housewives. They got housewives in New York now, housewives in Orange County now. They got housewives in Atlanta. I don't know none of their names, but I bet some of you do. But can you name your talents? Can you name your strengths? The other thing is, many of us aren't focused on the roles we play. Now, when I say roles, you might say, well, Linal, what do you mean? When you play a particular role, think about this. So you got your passions, you got your talents, you got your strengths. How can you use all of those things to do work, to sustain yourself, and actually maximize the roles you play? And when I say the roles, what I mean is, are you a husband? Are you a wife? Are you a mother? Are you a father? Are you a son? Are you a daughter? These are roles. And what happens is we're so outside of ourselves that all of those things are afterthoughts. And if you really think about life, what could be more important in this life than being in full relationship with yourself? Full relationship with yourself, very clear on your personal identity, and then maximizing the most important roles that you play. Typically, that have to do with people you love. What could be more important than that? Football tomorrow? That's the question. But we get so caught up in these things, and I love it when people say, well, I don't got time. You don't got time to know these critical factors about yourself, but you can give hours and hours to the latest sporting event or the latest movie. We're confused. I'm telling you, we got it backwards. And then we wonder why things don't seem to be working out well. Why we feel a certain level of dissatisfaction, a certain level of angst and anxiety. The next thing is, can you truly label all the things that you are? I am a husband. I am a father. I am a son. Truly label all the things that you are to the extent where you get all the way down to your state of being. State of being. See, really what I'm saying is, are you willing to slow down and get to know yourself? Are you willing to slow down? Are you willing to get a relationship with yourself? Are you committed to that? Because on the other side of that, that's where your power is. See, the difference between you and somebody that knows they're great, like a Beyonce, like a Jay-Z, like a President Obama, like a Oprah Winfrey, like a Elon Musk, like a Richard Branson. The difference between you and them, it's not much difference. The only difference is that they have clear identities. So clear that you're attracted to it. The identity is so clear that it attracts you. It pulls you in. Why are we attracted to that if that's not the state of being we should all be? This is why. You watch a TD Jakes. You know, a man like TD Jakes, he knows who he is. He's very clear on his passions. He's clear on his talents, his strengths, his roles, and he's playing to that. That's why the man is so powerful. That's why. So if you want to show up like that, then you got to do the work. You have to do the work. Now, somebody said, I like that comment, some confuse confidence with arrogance. Let me tell you the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is the ability, I'm not looking up in a dictionary, this is just my opinionated definition of it. Confidence is the ability to boldly do your work. Boldly, to own it. To say, I'm supposed to transform lives, let me go do that, right? Arrogance is you talking about it. You talking about what it is you're going to do and who you are and why you're better than everybody else at it. That's arrogance, right? Arrogance is it's typically, and when I'm coaching someone who has arrogance, it's typically a guard or a smoke screen for insecurity. They lack confidence and self-esteem, so they have to walk in arrogance to get the job done. That's a great comment on Facebook Live. By the way, we're streaming Facebook Live. So, what are your passions? What are your talents? What are your strengths? Now, check this out. Then once you have all that, what's your vision? You can't, now, don't work on the vision. Don't work on the vision until you know those things, right? Because don't make sense creating a vision and you don't know yourself. You know, how are you going to create a vision for where you're going to go when you don't even know where you are? Okay? Get clear on where you are. But if you've been listening to this and you're like, all right, Linal, let's go, man, because I'm clear on my passions, I'm clear on my talents, I'm clear on my strengths, I'm very clear on the roles I play, I'm playing to that. What's next? Next is, all right, what's your vision? Now that you've got that package, now that you've got your identity, then where are you going? What are you going to create? How are you going to help us? How are you going to help me? How are you going to help my wife? How are you going to help my son? He needs you. What's the vision? That's the next question. And if you're having a hard time with that, then take it outside the context of money. Because one of the things that gets us caught up is money. Money gets us all caught up. I mean, we get all wonky and crazy about money. And let me tell you, once you get in a relationship with yourself and that self-esteem and that confidence comes in, then now money shows up. Money will show up. I don't care what craft. I don't care what it is that you do. If you are in a relationship with yourself and you're playing to your passions, talents, and strengths, you're going to be phenomenal at what you do. You're going to be so good that somebody's going to hire you to do that thing. Not somebody, some people, a group of people, a plethora of people will find you and say, hey, I need some of that. But you might have to pivot. I don't know what you're doing today, but you might have to pivot to experience that type of success. This is one of the reasons I say murder mediocrity. Because some of us, we're doing good, but we know it's mediocre in comparison to where we could go, to what we could be, what we could create in our lives. So, okay, yeah, I'm bringing in 6 figures a year at this job. Okay, that's good. But you know it's mediocre. You know you're capable of more. And what scares you more than anything, what scares you the most, is that you might lose that little bit of good and get something worse. But let me tell you something. And this is what's kept me as an entrepreneur and the uncertainty that entrepreneurship brings. What has kept me is that when I know my purpose, I know why I live. If I know my purpose, I'm playing to my passions, my talents, and my strengths. And this is why I exist. Then everything is handled. Everything is handled because I'm in the right lane. And if everything is handled, I don't got to worry about that. All I got to do is do my work. Do the work that I was put on the planet to do. And that's why I started murdermediocrity.com. Because I know how hard it is to pivot outside of good and actually go for great. Because good is the enemy of great. It is the mortal foe of great. So think outside the context of money. If money was handled, what would you do? What would you do? And then consider that that's likely your purpose on the planet. Likely. If you've done all the work, right? You're clearing your passions, you're clearing your talents, you're clearing your strengths, you're clearing the roles that you play, right? You get all that down. And after you do all that, you clear on your vision for your life. Then once you got your vision, you say, all right, if money was handled, taking all this stuff I got that makes me happy, that gives me my identity, this is the game I will play. That's your purpose. I just bundled up the course right there for you. Now, I can do that because I know it's not all that simple. It takes more work. It takes more support. I needed that level of support. And that's why I created the course, to walk you through it and to help you navigate your life aligned with your purpose once you do it. So here's what I want to do. Like I said, murdermediocrity.com, I'm giving you all that 33% discount. I'm going to be doing a hard marketing launch, coming this upcoming week. And about a few months ago, I had a gentleman in the studio. He was shooting a documentary. And I'm going to play the audio from that documentary. But what I want you all to do is I want you to go to YouTube and check it out. All right, go to YouTube and check it out. But I'm going to play the audio right now. Gerald's going to cue it up. I'm going to play the audio. And then after I play the audio, go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And that way you can keep up with everything that I'm sharing around purpose, power, and possibility. Go ahead, Gerald.
I believe each of us has a seed of greatness given to us at birth. I believe we all have a divine purpose, and it's that purpose that waters this remarkable seed. I believe this because my life is the proof. How else does a young, confused, and bewildered black boy born in Chicago, who got kicked out of college, fired from 3 out of 4 of his first jobs, deprived and debt-laden before the age of 25, create an extraordinary life? Purpose. It took purpose. I realized I had a purpose. I realized that while I had been searching for success, I had yet to find me. So at the age of 23, I embarked on a journey to discover me, to discover my passions, my talents, my goals, my dreams. And as soon as I found out who I really was, how powerful I could really be, I made an internal pact to never forsake my purpose. Because to forsake my purpose is to nullify my greatness. My purpose is to learn with fervor, speak to and teach others all over the world with passion, to be an authentic leader and speaker who leads and speaks with the purpose to help myself and others live the best life possible. For almost 2 decades, I've chosen this purpose despite misaligned opportunities, money, and potential fame. And during this time, I struggled financially with lucrative opportunities outside my purpose lingering. I've had some really hard days, yet my faith in my purpose didn't waver. And today, I reap those rewards. I'm a global entrepreneur, coach, and radio host, I've traveled to over 40 countries and 260 cities across the globe where I've inspired thousands. I coach powerful, passionate people and living the best life possible. I transform lives by helping others distinguish their purpose and greatness. And my life is great. And I want a life of purpose, passion, and greatness for you too. If a young, confused, and bewildered black boy from Chicago can be great, I know you can too. Be great.
Be great, Chicago. Be great. You know, I shot that with Young Blaze. Young Blaze is a talent right here in Chicago, living out his purpose. Two men combining to create something that I think was great. I love that video. It took me a while to like it. You know, we could be our worst critics. But I want to thank you guys for your support. And when I tell you that all that I am and all that I can give is what I'm doing, what I'm looking to do, and what I provide to you all, that is it. I really believe that if I can do what I've done, you can do it too. We got to push past our fears and seize the opportunity. Go to murdermediocrity.com. And for my WVON family, anything I can do to support you, I'm here. You all have a good night. Love you. All right, that's the show. So, for all of you all on Facebook, I'm gonna give you an even better one, but you gotta be watching right now. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. If you want the course for half off, then up until Sunday evening, if you put half off in the discount code, then I'll give you half off. All right. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for the support. I appreciate you. Any questions you have, put in the comment bar, and I look forward to connecting with you all next week. Next week, I'm talking about power. Power. How to distinguish your power. You do not want to miss this one. All right? All right. See you guys later. Have a wonderful one. And I'll catch you next week.